Welcome back to another fantastic video. Today we're going to be looking at the Constitutional Convention, specifically talking about different plans and proposals that were suggested at the convention and what we did with all of them. Okay, so by the time you're done with this video, you should know the New Jersey plan, the Virginia plan, the Connecticut Compromise, and the Three-Fifths Compromise. So let's get to it. So the first plan that we want to look at is the Virginia plan. And this was proposed by a guy named James Madison. You may have heard of him. And James Madison said that we needed to have a bicameral legislature that had representation based on population. Okay, so those are the three things you need to know. Proposed by James Madison, called for a bicameral legislature and said we were going to have representation in the legislative branch based on the representation of the states. Okay, so if you're Virginia, if you're a large state, then you really like that idea because you have a lot of people that live in your state. So that means if you have a higher population, then you're going to have more representation or more of a voice in the legislative branch. So you think that's a great idea. Now, the next plan is the New Jersey plan. And the New Jersey plan was proposed by a guy named William Patterson, and it's Patterson with one T, sorry. And William Patterson proposed a unicameral legislature that was going to have equal representation in the legislative branch. So if you're a smaller state like New Jersey, you don't think that states with huge population should have more of a voice in the legislative branch just because they have more people. So the Virginia plan would have benefited smaller states as opposed to larger states. The New Jersey plan would have benefited smaller states as opposed to larger states, and the Virginia plan would have benefited larger states as opposed to smaller states. So lots and lots of discussion, lots of arguing. Eventually, we get to this thing called the Connecticut Compromise. And the Connecticut Compromise, as its name implies, smushes both of those plans together. So the Connecticut Compromise gives us a bicameral legislature. Bicameral, remember, means two parts or two chambers. It gives us representation based on population in one house and equal representation in the other. So it was a way to find something that was going to benefit everybody in some way, shape, or form. And the Connecticut Compromise, it's also known as the Great Compromise, just kind of depends on what you're looking at. But this should sound familiar to you because this is what we still have today. We have a bicameral legislature. Congress has two houses with a House of Representatives that has representation based on population and a Senate that has equal representation. So it smushed both of those ideas together. And the last one we want to look at today is the Three-Fifths Compromise. And the Three-Fifths Compromise dealt with the issue of representation in the legislative branch, but this dealt specifically with the enslaved population. So according to the Three-Fifths Compromise, states could count 3/5 of their enslaved population as part of their population for things like representation in the legislative branch, but also for taxation purposes. Okay, so all of these plans that we talked about and the compromises, they're focusing solely on how states and the people in those states are going to be represented in the legislative branch. So that tells you that this was a pretty important thing, a big deal that our founding fathers were really concerned about. Okay, so if you have any questions, let me know.